I miss the good old days when you didn't have video and camera on everything. Satellite phones tell you where you are within 10 meters. Back in the old days, we didn't have no phones. Had to use two cans tied together with a string. Anyway, so the flagellates were the first group of protozoans, right? They have that whip-like flagellum and move through the water. The second group are the ciliates, Ciliates, the ciliates. And they have row after row of tiny cilia on the surface of the cell. These are just little hairs that stick out. I would ask if any of you have seen the movie Ben-Hur, but given that most of you have never watched a movie in your life longer than 5 minutes on TikTok, let alone one from the 1950s about faith, I'm 100% certain you've never heard of it. Yes, sir.
I am.
You have. Please tell me it was the original, not that remake.
Not the, like, it's the one where the guy got trampled by the horse.
Yep. Anyway, if y'all had seen that movie, you would know what a Roman galley was, and you would know how a galley moved through the cooperative use of oars. Back and forth, back and forth. Cilia act the same way. Everybody clear on that? And then the last one are the amoeba, A-M-O-E-B-A, amoeba. The amoebas are very interesting. Quite frankly, they're about the weirdest thing you'll ever see. Anybody ever accidentally dropped a blob of jelly on your table or your floor or something? You know how it kind of gradually, slowly flattens out, kind of oozes along? That basically is what amoeboid movement is.
Jello.
Huh?
Jello.
Jello. Did I ever tell you all how Jello is made?
No.
We'll save that one.
Save it.
Huh?
Save it.
Y'all want to know how Jello is made?
I'm pretty sure it involves like some kind of bones.
Bones. Well, after an animal such as a cow is slaughtered, they want to use as much of the parts as they can, right? Obviously, we want the meat. The hide is used for leather. The bones are left over, aren't they? If you know anything about bones, you know they are solid and hard, aren't they? That's because they are made up of large amounts of calcium carbonate. What you may not know is there are a lot of proteins packed inside there. So basically, they grind the bones up into a dense powder. They put the powder into a weak acid bath. The weak acid bath dissolves everything in there. The heavy calcium carbonate settles to the bottom. The protein is dissolved and rises to the top as scum. They send in a big robotic arm to sweep the scum off the surface of it. Then they take that scum and they dry it, freeze dry it. And then they clean it up and put it into a little package and sell it to you as Jello brand gelatin.
Did you also know that they use the fat off of cows and pigs to make women's lipstick?
To make what?
Women's lipstick.
A dipstick?
Lipstick, right?
I'm not surprised.
Most any makeup that's like solid like that uses fat.
I told you to gross you out. Y'all wanted to know. It's just protein. And Jello actually solidifies at a lower temperature. Amoebas don't. If you get an amoeba to the point where it solidifies, it has frozen solid. It's formed ice crystals, it's ruptured the cell membrane, and it's dead. And I've told you where the amoebas are typically found, right? Most of these things are aquatic. They do cause diseases in humans, so make sure you get that down. Protozoans can cause diseases in humans. Probably the most deadly one is something called plasmodium. Plasmodium. Plasmodium is a ciliate. It normally lives in one of two places. The main host are mosquitoes from the genus Anopheles. Mosquitoes. They live in the gut of the mosquito. When the female of the Anopheles species lands on a mammal, most specifically a human, they stick their snout into your skin, tap into a blood vessel, and start sucking the blood out. When they are sucking the blood out, unfortunately for us, they're also backwashing and putting those plasmodia parasites into your bloodstream, where they begin to circulate, invade your red blood cells, break the red blood cells down, change form, and migrate to your liver. Very, very, very deadly disease. I've seen estimates that say basically 1 million people a year die from it. That's on par with AIDS. Anybody here ever been to the tropics? When they tell you to sleep with mosquito netting, they're not lying. When I was in Costa Rica, I don't know what it is about my quarter Norwegian-based type O neg blood, but those bloodsuckers loved it. I went to bed one night, I woke up the next morning, I looked like I had measles. That's how much my arms got eaten up. Went out and bought some insect repellent. Kind of odd, you get out of the shower and the very first thing you do is you don't spray your rock guard, you spray your deep woods off, which works very effectively. And no, I didn't get malaria because I wasn't going to a malaria-ridden area. But you get the idea, right? I mentioned amoebic dysentery, where you ingest cysts, they go into your bowel and they open up and they start attacking the tissue. Bloody diarrhea, you get dehydrated. If not treated, you can die from it. So there are some diseases, those are just two. So you may want to get those two down. Dysentery and malaria. And of course, I mentioned Naegleria, didn't I? The brain-eating amoeba.
Yes, it's in water.
Yeah. Naegleria cases are very, very, very rare. Did you have a question, Madison?
No.
Okay. It's one of those fun things you can share with your class, but you're not going to really have to worry about this. Let's see if I can find how many cases per year. The average number of cases of brain-eating amoeba infections reported in the United States per year is less than 10. an average of 7 cases per year since 1962. So don't be losing sleep over that. Not unless you're free diving into deep water and snorting the pond scum up your nose when you get into it, because other than that, you're most likely not going to have it. Everybody clear on that? Any other questions on protists? The last major group, besides protozoans and algae, was what? Slime molds. Slime molds are some of the weirdest things in existence. They spend most of their lives as a lumpy mass of protoplasm called a plasmodium. A plasmodium. This is basically like a naked to the eye sized amoeba. You can actually see this thing oozing around on dead wood, leaves, that kind of thing. No, you don't need a microscope. It's live and in color.
I hate to ask, what color is it?
White, yellow, orange or red. Can fade to a tan or brown as they dry out. They're actually fairly colorful when you see them. And most of what they're actually eating is bacteria. They also eat some dead things. You'll often find them in mulch, dead leaves. If you're really, really grossed out and you see one, get a water hose, spray it, wash it away. I'm serious. We talked about how they all clump together, form a fruiting body. Fruiting body can form cysts. They disperse. They grow up, lather, rinse, repeat. They're cool and all, but they're really not that exciting. So any other questions about protists in general? Only real significant impact to humans would probably be food, as in some of the algae that we mentioned, and diseases. Not really a lot of human usage or a lot of human interaction there. Anybody here ever done cooking? You've used cornstarch? You know, starch is a thickening agent. If you look on the list of ingredients for, say, ice cream, you might see something called carrageenan. Carrageenan. It is a thickening agent that comes from algae, seaweed. It used to be used fairly extensively, especially in ice cream, but I think they've gone to cheaper things like cornstarch mostly now. Not to gross you out. Ever seen bacteria growing on an agarose plate or an agar plate? That's another thing they get from algae. Just not a lot of human usage or interaction there. So everybody cool with those? Well, we're halfway through our tour of the kingdoms, aren't we? We've hit bacteria, we've hit archaea, and now we are done with protista. Next up, there's a fungus among us. I'm such a fun guy. Kingdom fungi. The fungi are interesting. For most of recorded history, they were actually placed with plants because, like plants, they are typically multicellular, although there are a few single-celled organisms. They are sessile or immobile. They always have a cell wall, always. And that cell wall is composed of a polysaccharide called chitin. CHITIN. You'll find fungi pretty much everywhere. You don't believe me? Go look at the grout between your tiles in your bathtub or your shower, and you'll probably see some kind of black mold growing on there. If so, you need to be cleaning your bathroom more often. Interesting thing about chitin, does anybody know where else it's found in nature?
Like insects and whatnot.
Insects. Y'all ever stepped on a beetle? Gives that nice, satisfying crunch because you have crushed its armor plating, right? That armor plating is made out of chitin, the exact same thing that you find in fungi. Fungi exist as a single thread, typically, called a hypha, HYPHA. The plural of that is hyphae, HYPHAE. Anybody in here ever accidentally left a loaf of bread out too long? You get that kind of bluish green stuff growing on it. Bread mold. If you pull it up close and take a look at it, what you see are a bunch of little threads, right? Those are the hyphae. A mass of hyphae is called a mycelium. A mycelium. How big can a mycelium get? Madison's raising her hand. I think Conrad is. He's either that or he's picking his nose.
I'd argue like there's a lack of a potential upper limit, but like the environment could limit it.
The environment could limit it. Do y'all want to see the biggest organism in the world? How big do you want to say it can get? No takers. Y'all know me too well by this point, don't you? The answer is 3.7 square miles. 2,200 acres. yes, those are people. Nope, it's not AI. This is real.
Sounds
These
like
little
fun.
things at the bottom are indeed people. I'll come over here. I just wanted you to have a chance to see this thing. Any idea where this humongous fungus is living? Great state of Oregon.
Your favorite.
Let's go.
Just coincidence that you happen to bring in your Oregon cup on the day we talk about fungi. It's nicknamed the humongous fungus. It started from a single spore too small to see. It's been spreading its hyphae through the forest for an estimated 2,400 years. It now covers 2,200 acres of the Malheur National Forest in eastern Oregon. The outline of the giant fungus stretches 3.5 miles across, extends an average of 3 feet deep into the ground. It covers an area as big as 1,665 football fields. In 1992, another Armillaria ostoyae was found in Washington State, covering 1,500 acres. Cool, huh? What allows it to get so big? It's the nature of the body, because we have a solid body, don't we? All of our cells are attached, they're all contiguous. Imagine if I had a piece of cloth that was big enough to drape over the entire campus within the loop. That would be a big piece of cloth, wouldn't it? Now imagine if we unraveled that cloth into a single contiguous thread. That would put kudzu to shame, wouldn't it? And now you see how it's able to do it. It doesn't mean that for 3 feet down, for 3.5 miles across, you get nothing but fungus. If you turn a shovel of dirt over, you're definitely going to have some of those fungal hyphae in it, aren't you? Chances are much greater that the vast majority of it will not be fungus, but will actually be just dirt. So everybody got that? We are most familiar with what we call fruiting bodies. Fruiting bodies. Is there anybody in here who likes mushroom on their pizza? Oh wow, you and I are the only two. Well, you just missed us talking about the humongous fungus.
Sorry.
Don't worry, I taped it for you. And thanks for having her tell me.
I
Glad.
didn't know I was gonna be so late until.
It's okay. You let me know and I was able to work with it. That's why you're getting recorded. See, this is what happens when some students are responsible. So, any questions about the humongous fungus? Thank you, sir. And that means I can push. I'll keep it going. I might as well. In for a penny, in for a pound, right? Y'all never heard that either, have you? Do y'all know what a pound is? What is it?
So, measurement.
European.
For weight.
If I said
Pound per
in for a
weight.
penny, in for a pound, then I'm actually referring to
Currency.
the currency of the United Kingdom, not a measure of mass.
Hey, you didn't clarify
I
though.
knew
until
that too.
now.
I knew that too.
I shouldn't have had to. There's this thing called context.
Context clues.
Sure.
Context matters.
Sorry.
And here goes Tanner
Yeah, there we
again.
go.
Okay. What we call fruiting bodies are the part of the fungus that you actually see, the mushroom. That little thing that sticks up and forms a disc, that's a fruiting body. Has anybody here ever seen a shelf fungus? You go out and you'll see what look like shells growing on the trees. The point I want you to get, they're not all mushrooms. Is everybody clear on that? They are not all mushrooms. Basically what happens, a spore lands somewhere and it germinates. It's a single cell. It starts dividing. It divides linearly, right? So we're going to form that chain or that hypha that we've talked about. Does everybody see how that goes? It'll break, another one starts forming across it. It breaks, another one starts forming across it. And before you know it, you've got this mass of threads that have doubled back on itself. They folded over. They have just grown. You don't see those. Has anybody in here ever heard of a fairy ring? A fairy ring. We really, really need to do something about TikTok in this country. A fairy ring is when you go out after a nice rainstorm in the summer and you see a perfect circle with mushrooms around the edge. You're frowning at me? Okay, everybody Google fairy ring. You see those? It's kind of cool, isn't it?
You don't want to eat them.
You don't ever want to eat a mushroom that you collect in the wild.
Nope.
How cool is that? You might think each and every one of those mushrooms is an individual fungus, right? They're all genetically identical because the mycelium is buried there in the dirt in the center. And when water comes down, it's warm, those are ideal conditions for reproduction, right? So it's going to send up the fruiting bodies, and that is where the spores for the next generation come from. So does everybody see how that goes? So what we eat or what we think of as a fungus, that mushroom, is just the reproductive structure. The mass of this we don't see because it's buried there in the middle. That clarified a little bit better for everybody? And I think now you can see that major thing I showed you a minute ago. It may be 3.5 miles across, but it's still nothing more than just a big fairy ring. Pretty wild, isn't it? So is everybody comfortable with the idea of how a fungus lives? Spore, mycelium, fruiting body, spore, mycelium, fruiting body, repeat. What is the biggest threat to a fungus?
Something eating it? Some animal?
Could it be long distances, like traveling long distances?
Nope, those are both good guesses. Might surprise you. And there's like desiccation, drying out.
Just like it all.
That's why I said if you go look in your shower, you'll almost certainly find some fungus. Because typically, most people like long, hot showers, don't they? A 5% aqueous solution of sodium hypochlorite is your friend. Bleach. What will bleach kill? Everything. Including you if you drink it, so don't drink it. You laugh, but you should have seen some of the things people were trying COVID. There were people
Oh, I
drinking
know.
bleach.
It was bad.
Remember when we talked about antibiotics versus antiseptics? An antiseptic will kill everything, including you. The nice thing about antibiotics is they don't affect you. You don't want them to affect you. You want your immune system to not even know they're there. Question?
So the difference between antibiotics and antiseptics is essentially like controlled burning and arson.
I wouldn't say controlled burning and arson. Some arson is controlled. I would say it's the difference between using a controlled burn to clear a small patch of ground to going in and napalming the site from orbit because it's the only way to be sure. Yes, that's a line from a movie. I actually messed the line up because they're talking about nuking the site. I know y'all don't watch movies because TikTok is longer than 5 minutes. Turn it off. I regularly watch 45 to 50-minute programs on my own without prompting. Yes, sir.
You think that's bad? One time for my birthday, I tried to make my buddies watch the good and the bad and the ugly. 5 minutes in, they got their phones out.
Like right on cue.
No,
Wow.
we didn't even get past the beginning credits.
There's no accounting for taste.
3-hour movie.
When I see what is peddled at the theaters under the name of entertainment today, your statement explains much. Okay, so everybody understands what a fungus looks like, how a fungus is. If you ever go out into the woods and you come across a very old rotted log, you may see a mushroom or two on it, right? If you kick it, it will generally fly apart, right? Dry rot. That is because if you were to take a microscope and examine the inside of that log, you will see that it is absolutely riddled with hyphae. They are breaking it down from the inside. Which brings us to the ecological niche of fungi. Remember we talked about an ecological niche, right? We said that's the role a species or a critter plays in an ecosystem. So if you don't have that in your notes, you may want to get it. What is the ecological niche for a fungus?
Decomposers.
Decomposers. By and large, fungi are like the waste disposal engineers of the living world. If you go out and you look at all of those leaves that have just fallen off the trees recently, I guarantee you'll find fungi growing on a lot of them, won't you? I told you about that rotting log out in the woods. Fungi. The technical term is saprophyte. Saprophyte. S-A-P-R-O-P-H-Y-T-E. Scavengers, decomposers, they feed on the dead. Is that a good thing for humans? Absolutely. You saw how many of y'all had to rake your yard or use a leaf blower or something this Do you all ever do anything besides watch TikTok videos? Well, do you have dead leaves covering your yard Well, I guess you all would, since you don't ever bother to rake them. You probably have them covering your yard all
I was
We
year
waste leaves
long.
out there too.
Like,
Well, why do the leaves not pile up year after year after year?
Because they decompose.
Because they decompose.
That's why we don't break them up.
That's why we don't rake them up. We just lay around and rotting stuff. Okay. If you like having decomposing material around, let me guess. Y'all are so rich that you can afford to hire someone to do it for you, right?
Oh yeah, I already do. They're working on the house anyway.
If I were teaching at Vanderbilt, I would never have made the assumption that somebody would have raked their own leaves.
True.
But anyway, decomposers, the main thing, and here's the biggest one I want you to get down. They break down one thing that very, very few things can break down, and that is wood. About the only thing that can break down wood is a fungus. There are a few protists that can.
And termite.
Yeah, they live inside the gut of termites, that's an example. But by and large, when it dies, if it's made of wood, it takes fungus to break it down. Everybody clear on that? It's not just wood. They break down just about everything, but wood is a specialty of fungi. There is a substance in wood called lignin, Lignin, lignin. Any woody plant has lignin in its cell wall. Any woody plant. There is an enzyme called lignase, Lignase. Lignase breaks down lignin. And I think you can pretty well guess what group of critters make lignase and secrete it. Why, yes, it would be fungi. Any questions? Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Cam's eyes are... So, human impact. Indirectly, their biggest impact is being decomposers, indirectly. Directly, what do you think is the most significant impact of fungi on humans?
Food.
Food. Good job. And not necessarily like those sauteed mushrooms that my mother made to go along with the mushroom brown gravy that I had on my hot roast beef Manhattan last night. Oh man, it was good. Other than me and Conrad, most of you don't seem to have discovered the delectable joys of the fungal kingdom.
you gotta give it a try. You gotta give mushrooms a try. There's a kind called chicken, that's nicknamed chicken of the wood, that's good.
By and large, well, I trained under one of the world's foremost mycologists, so I actually got to eat some oyster mushrooms raw right off the tree. This guy had over 40 years of experience in field work when we found him. To say I trust him implicitly would be, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. One of the most delicious things we ever had. Then we took the rest of them back to the cabin and we fried them up in some butter. Oh my gosh. Tender, tasty, yum. But most of us don't eat mushrooms, am I right?
Right.
Elijah's like, yeah, you want to be the weirdo, you can eat the fungus. I'm sticking with the normal stuff.
Y'all need to expand your taste palates.
Question.
Well, it's more like a comment. I will say, every year I go mushroom hunting with my uncle around Christmas time.
You what?
So every year I go mushroom hunting with my uncle around Christmas time, like a tradition. I will say it's not worth the effort.
You're looking for truffles.
Just looking for any kind of mushroom we can eat. He knows all about them. I don't know nothing.
That's because it's cold and most fungi are not
Fungi
coming
don't-
out about this
fungi
time.
don't fight with
The
you.
best time to do mushroom collecting is in early summer, early autumn, after a rainstorm. So if we're not big eaters of mushrooms, which again, I know most of you are not, why would I say that they have such an impact on human activity? There is a certain fungus that is used in food preparation that I would be willing to bet you have consumed one of the products at some point in time today. This particular fungus single-handedly allowed the pyramids of Egypt to be built. Don't worry, Tanner, the answer's coming. It's just longer than a TikTok video. The answer is yeast. And the process is baking bread. The other process, which I definitely hope none of you have imbibed today, is brewing. Beer, wine. And do y'all know what paid the workers of ancient Egypt? Do you know what they actually received as payment per day? They got two things. They got bread and they got beer. And those two things supplied most of the calories that the workers who built the pyramids needed. Pretty cool, isn't it? You think of the economic impact of the brewing industry. Between here and home, I pass 3 liquor stores that I'm aware of. That industry does not exist without yeast, does it? You ever made fresh bread? It smells fantastic, doesn't it, when it comes right out of the oven or the bread machine? Oh yeah. It's able to rise because of the fermentation of the yeast. So by far and away, food production. Let's make sure you get that down. Not just food, but primarily food production. What's the other major human impact of, Somebody said? I told you all already about antibiotics.
Penicillin.
Remember the Scottish microbiologist who went to get his haggis and left his, oh yeah. As a teacher, you live for the light bulb moment. The problem is with a few of you, it's about a 15 water. And it doesn't, it's more like bzz, 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 bzz. Mr. Gode's so offended he's leaving the class.
My phone was blowing off the hook and I had no clue why. Everyone I know wants to call me today at this exact
Well, I'll tell you, there's actually a solution to that. Would y'all like to hear
Turn the
it?
phone all the way off.
Don't answer.
Well, you can shut it off.
I had a young woman I was communicating with. We were thinking about setting up a social outing together. And I got home from a Thursday, which you all know is my long day, right? Because most of you are here till 5:30 with me. You know what time I get here, super early. I've got an hour each way, so I was not available. Are you okay? Where have you been? What's wrong? I had a dozen messages between texts and missed calls and an actual voicemail. So I texted her back and said, I'm fine. I just got home. Why? You didn't answer your phone all day. Yeah, that is correct. I was teaching and driving. Why would I answer my phone today? She could not believe that somebody would be offline for 10 hours or 12 hours or 14 hours. I said, welcome to my life. We don't communicate anymore. Anyway, antibiotics. Almost all of the ones we use come from fungi. We started branching out and getting ones from other sources, but the vast majority of them are traced back to fungi. I told you I worked for one of the world's leading mycologists. Mycologist is somebody who studies fungus. He self-funded his entire lab research. How did he do it? Every single time he and his graduate students went out into the field, anywhere in the field, and they took a collection, they didn't take one, they took two. One we would put in the refrigerator so that we could grow it and use it for our own research. The other one we put into a different refrigerator. Twice a year, a pharmaceutical company would come and clean out the second refrigerator, and based on the number and types of cultures, would typically write a check for between $60,000 and $70,000 for the contents of that refrigerator. That's not bad for a year's worth of tromping in the woods and gathering fungus, is it? In return for us collecting, documenting, and storing it, and allowing them to pay us, they got all rights to anything that was developed from those cultures. And they thought not only was it an okay expense, they thought it was an outstanding investment to get it so cheap. And remember, this was 30 years ago when $60,000 or $70,000 actually meant something. I know that might get you a couple of bacon eaters and Wendy's now. Inflation, the way it is. But y'all got the idea, right? What is the flip side of the medical industry? This is a severe impact of fungi.
Is it disease?
Disease.
Yeah. And aren't some of them parasites as well?
Any fungal disease by definition is a parasite.
Yeah, I remember talking about this one that infects ants. I remember talking about this one that infects ants.
Cordyceps?
Cordyceps, the one that infects the ant's brain, takes it over and turns it into a literal zombie walking dead.
Makes it climb as high as it can, then it just bursts open and the cycle repeats.
If you don't believe us, I'll show it to you. There's actually is such a thing. The zombie fungus. No, it doesn't work on humans. Yes, it works on ants. No, it's not going to mutate and work on humans. So The Last of Us will never be a true story. But it is a cool idea. Athlete's foot. Anybody ever had that? Yeast infection. You're starting to see where I'm going with this, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
There are not typically a lot of fungal diseases that hit people directly. Make sure you get that. There are typically not a lot of fungal diseases that affect people directly. Most of the time, they're not going to be able to get past your skin. Can you get a fungal infection? Sure. Athlete's foot, typically in the cracks of the toes, right? Yeast infections, it's typically a female problem. Any area where you've got folds of skin and you've got high heat and you've got moisture, you're possibly going to get a fungal infection. But even so, most of those can be wiped out with a simple topical over-the-counter antifungal cream.
Okay. Yeah.
Question.
Or if you accidentally breathe in the spores,
Well, I'm getting there.
you know.
Even if you breathe in the spores, chances are very good you're not going to develop any kind of fungal infestation. Your immune system is outstanding at fighting off just about everything. Y'all want to hear of, y'all like my horror stories? I know it's a little past Halloween, but y'all seem to be enjoying these. How many of you heard of the Joplin, Missouri tornado of 2011? 2 people, 3 people. Wow.
I kind of heard about it.
The Joplin, Missouri tornado was an F5. That is the most destructive one. And it basically wiped out the entire town. The death toll was 161 people in one day. What you may not have heard of was about 11 people died, 13 developed mucormycosis. Mucormycosis. Of these 13, 5 of them died as the fungus, which was a soil fungus, basically started using the victim's bloodstream as a highway to spread hyphae throughout the entire body. One of the survivors had so much damage that they essentially removed his rib cage and replaced it with one made of titanium. Pretty wild. What happened? These victims were wounded essentially by particles that were caught up by the wind of the tornado, and it drove soil deep, deep into their tissue, bypassed the skin, bypassed the immune system entirely. But I want you to understand, fungal diseases are not common among people. Make sure you've got that down. So why are we saying it's such a significant impact?
Could it do serious damage to crops?
Crops, you got it. Tremendous damage to crops. Specifically, there's a group of fungi called smuts. Smuts. Related rusts. Wheat rust. We're talking billions of dollars of damage per year. I told you about the chestnut blight, didn't I? Essentially wiped out the chestnut. That's a fungus. I told you the story of the Irish potato famine, didn't I? That's a fungus. You get an idea here? I know from the way y'all answered this not too long ago that most of us have probably encountered bread mold at some point, haven't we? If not on bread, maybe on fruit. Everything has an expiration date, doesn't it? And almost all of that breakdown is due to a fungal disease or a fungal infestation. So fungi play a real role in human impact. The most important one indirectly is decomposition. They're saprophytes, they feed on the dead stuff. From a direct economic endpoint, you've got brewing and baking, followed by food itself. You go into any grocery store, you're guaranteed to find at least 2 shelves worth of mushrooms, aren't you? You go looking for specific things like that mushroom gravy I had last night or that mushroom pizza I had 2 nights ago, you're going to find them, aren't you? You may not eat them a lot yourself, but there are a number of them that are consumed. I actually had a student last semester offer me a mushroom farm, believe it or not.
You take it?
No. There's too much danger of cross-contamination, and mushrooms, why would you not eat a mushroom?
Well.
Elijah?
I don't like the way they taste.
Don't like the way it tastes, so you have tried them. Lucy?
Straight up.
Cause I don't like the way they taste. Cause I don't like the way they taste.
Mr. Hicks?
Same.
Huh?
Same. How'd you prepare them?
Have y'all ever heard of the whole thing of mushrooms are dangerous? There are some that are extraordinarily toxic. And if you don't know what you're getting, you're dead. There was a woman who was tried for murder in Australia because she wanted to get rid of her husband and a couple of his, I think it was the husband, his sister, and the sister's husband. She fed them all a mushroom dessert, dish that she made with a deadly mushroom. There was another case that a family had immigrated to California from Vietnam, and in Vietnam they had regularly supplemented their diet with wild foraged mushrooms. If you know what you're doing, you've been trained on it, you're experienced with it, it's not that dangerous, is it? If you're out in the woods with me and I roll up to a blueberry bush and I start popping blueberries into my mouth, you think I know what I'm talking about? Given the fact that I grew up around here, given the fact that I'm a botanist, given the fact that I trained around here, probably so. I would not try to eat any bluish berry that I encountered in Asia. Not because it's dangerous, but because I don't know. I didn't grow up there, I didn't train there. Unfortunately for this family, they went out on a hike and they found a patch of mushrooms and they harvested them because they reminded them of the mushrooms back home in Vietnam and they were going to make the dish. And they ended up making the dish, and 3 of the 4 ended up having to get liver transplants because it had a deadly toxin and destroyed the liver.
Did it look identical to the ones they ate?
I don't remember. It was just something. This happened probably 30 years ago. The Australian woman, if you want, I can try to look that up. Bottom line, unless you know what you are eating, and when I say know it, I, despite having worked under Ron Peterson, despite having actually eaten some wild mushrooms around here, and despite knowing what I know, I still would never eat a wild collected mushroom that I collected myself. I just don't trust my own skills that much. Erin Patterson, an Australian woman, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the 2023 murders of 3 of her former in-laws by serving them a meal of beef Wellington laced with poisonous deathcap mushrooms. The victims, Don Patterson, Gail Patterson, and Heather Wilkinson, all died within days of consuming the meal due to organ failure caused by mushroom toxins. Convicted in April of this year. So, are fungi important to humans? They form a separate, distinct kingdom. They are probably the 3rd most common that we come into contact with or think of behind plants and animals. So let's continue our tour of the kingdoms by talking about the best kingdom in existence and the worst kingdom in existence. Tanner, you're just going to laugh regardless, aren't you?
Probably.
The most interesting group of critters on the face of the earth. Who can tell me what they are?
Probably us.
Us,
Are we?
Oh, God.
we're not all that interesting. We spread
All we are-
like the plague. We foul our own nest. We have wrecked the climate. We're overpopulated.
We're the
All
best
we
and
are
the
are
worst.
Huh?
All we are just a bunch of walking creatures who are just well, who just continue the same cycle every day.
Pretty much. Tanner's face is getting red again. I even got Lucy smiling. Well, what is my own personal opinion for the most interesting bunch of critters on this planet would be the plants. Kingdom Plantae. General characteristics of plants. Number one, they are multicellular. Unlike the fungi, which include single cells like yeast, plants are defined by their multicellularity. Number two, they are, by definition, pretty much sessile. Sessile. You want me to say it with a British accent? Sessile. Sessile. I can do RP just as well as anybody.
The British accent.
You do it again.
I can, but I'm not going to.
I hear it that well.
Do you think I'm here for your amusement?
Well.
That I'm here to entertain you?
Yes. Yes.
Remind me to show you that clip from Goodfellas.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, another movie. Don't worry, it's just a clip. It's under 5 minutes. It's the size of a TikTok video. You can digest it.
Talk to Tanner about that, not me.
I don't even have TikTok. I don't know what he's talking
I
about.
don't have it either, so I don't know what he's talking about.
That's why your face is getting so red.
Laughing.
Oh, Robbie's.
Robbie's about to die over here.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Okay. Sessile, Sessile. It means they're locked into one place. They don't move. Where a plant germinates is where the plant is going to stay. Is that important? Absolutely, because resources are immediately going to be very limited by locale. Certain plants will only be found in certain areas. They are multicellular, sessile, autotrophs. A-U-T-R-O. No, A-U-T-O-T-R-O-P-H. Autotroph. What does that mean, Robbie?
Autotroph.
They make their own food.
They make their own food. What's the process they use for that?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. There, you got another word. Photosynthesis. I cannot emphasize for you how important plants are for animals. Because quite simply, without plants, animals could not exist. In any terrestrial food chain, you're pretty much guaranteed to find plants at the bottom. Notice I said terrestrial. When I say terrestrial, I mean land-based. Land-based. Aquatic systems can be a little different. So the biggest thing plants do is convert radiant energy or sunlight into chemical energy or food. And this might surprise you, since we just talked about taxonomy, kingdom, phylum, class, order family. Fairly far down the list, right? 10 of humanity's top 20 food sources. 10 of the top 20 food sources used by humanity as a whole not only come from plants, but from one single plant family. Does anybody know what that is? The grass family. Every major center of civilization, and when I say center of civilization, I mean where humans banded together and essentially formed their own independent societies, they had one or more grains, cereal crops, which are essentially nothing but grasses. Think of the Aztecs, the Mayas, the Incas in Central and South America, right? What was their major grain? Maize, M-A-I-Z-E, aka corn. Africa, millet and sorghum. The civilizations of the Middle East, Egypt, Mesopotamia, to a lesser extent, northwestern India, the Harappan civilization in the Indus River Valley. They had wheat, barley, rye. China, along the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers. What did they have?
Everything.
Rice.
Who said it? Rice. They weren't making sourdough there, son.
I don't think so.
I don't know what kind of Chinese restaurant you went to.
I'll go to.
But something tells me it probably wasn't chicken in the chicken chow mein.
Nope.
See where I'm going with this? It's not just the fact that we get food from plants, it's that we get the majority of our food from a small group of plants. Even those of us that like to eat meat, you know my love of beef,
Baconator.
baconator,
We're still eating the grain-fed buns.
pretty much. Most cattle are probably fed on surplus corn. At the very least, if it's grass-fed beef, that's what they're fed on. See where I'm going with this? Plants make life possible, not just in terms of food, but the second thing, what's the second thing they supply to us that is indispensable? Oh boy, I shook you guys seem to fail, you earned it. What was the process by which we convert radiant energy to chemical energy?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. What's the byproduct of photosynthesis?
Oxygen.
Oxygen,
Oh.
yeah, that cool stuff we breathe, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we're all just a little too out of it today, is that right? Don't worry, Elijah, you got an excuse. Everybody gets not one but two makes it the same day, that's evil, right? These two don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say a word, Tanner.
Yeah, I think.
What else do we get from plants?
Energy.
Biomass. Anybody here ever sat beside a fireplace or a wood burning stove ever, any time in your life?
In the winter, yeah.
Yeah.
At least half of us. That's biomass, that's plant material.
But I wouldn't try that again.
What is our number one building material? Yes. Wood. Tell me the timber industry doesn't make a lot of money.
Yes, it did.
But imagine where we would be without just wood. Wood and only wood. You see where I'm going? For a lot of humanity's history as a society or as a civilization, wood was our primary source of heat and light.
I'm definitely not putting it into the fireplace. I've already learned my lesson from that with Grandpa.
Please don't tell me you put Grandpa in the fireplace.
No, I smoked myself out of the house.
Well, when you think about how dangerous it used to be with every single place having multiple open flames burning, it's not really surprising that fire was a much bigger threat in the ancient days than it is today. What else do we use it for?
Tools and whatnot.
Huh?
Tools. Tools.
Jewels.
Tools.
Oh my God.
TOOLS. Tools.
Well,
I was looking for clothing.
paper.
I'm a botanist. I'm always going to be biased. And most tools that we have today are actually made out of metal. They may have a wooden handle, but generally a tool is made of metal. But thank you for at least participating, Conrad. I like some people. We're done.
I sound like a mean.
Meeting 15 if you're in the lab, otherwise hit the road, have a good weekend. Oh, since we have all the makeups now, I can go ahead and get everything graded and posted, and I'll get it back to you on Tuesday. I may get them posted tomorrow, so keep an eye on it.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir.
I think some of the
Kevin,
cow industry, they can take all the cows.
Oh my God.
Calm down, Robbie.
Ain't no difference between a grass-fed cow and a grain-fed cow until they're in. Because every cow that gets sold to a stockyard is a grass-fed cow. They didn't do a feedlot, and they feed them grain, get a fat, get a good finish. I would never eat grass-fed beef in my life. Ain't no fat, no flavor, the meat is tough.
Nothing stringy.
That's right. If you eat that little grain-fed beef, shoot, we slaughter, we sell our cows to a slaughterhouse. We have feedlots built into our farm, there one a few in the eastern U.S. got one. But we'll pick one out, say, we'll kill this one, eat it, and I'll tell you something, ain't nothing better than good old hand-raised beef.
I know, my grandpa had a farm, and I don't think I'm a person who glorifies that sort of thing, but I am not going to apologize for eating because we do.
I mean, shoot, but a lot of people don't understand, like vegan and stuff, they just talk about eating, like you use animal products and everything. And I'll just tell you a good memory I had, my great uncle used to buttermilk, feed, haul buttermilk out of the bottle to fatten him up. Build that old smokehouse right there, get her stocked up full of sausages and bacon and all that good stuff that would cure up and smoke. I was just thinking about it, man.
Are we doing that DNA stuff?
Anyway.
Like not testing our DNA, but in lab?
Not today.
Not today.
Hope you stay in good health.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe another week of it. So I thought we were doing it this, or last week, I guess.
I was intending to do it last week, but we had such a pretty day, and I knew the cold weather was coming. I thought you'd want to have a